fantastic. And then I look below and I
Mm-hmm.
check my co-host doing this during the song. And that kind of, and I'm kind
Try,
of was like,
trying to
for
pump up, trying to pump
fuck's
up here.
sake. Oh,
Just trying to
that
pump up.
was you pumping up. All right.
Yep.
This is the Quick and Dirty. I am Joel Aflam. I am with my co-host Nicolas Pidiktakis. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. Just finished my work shift about 30 or so minutes ago, so I'm just happy that I'm taking the time to relax and take care of this.
Take care of what?
Take care of the show.
Oh, yeah, okay. The first night I'm not high in 2 weeks, and that's what we have. For fuck's sake. All right. By the way, that might be the last episode of the Quick and Dirty because Michaels is so putty mounted. Like he was about to say shit, and I'm so offended. I'm canceling myself from this show. This guy has no fucking manners. He's a fucking little asshole. All right, let's get into it. All right, so first of all, there's John Cena that
Yep.
has to apologize for stating the obvious, meaning that he called Taiwan a country,
Yeah.
and
So
now he was forced to apologize in Chinese.
yeah. So just to state what's going on, folks, and again, good evening.
Sure.
And Olivier Bonnet, j'espère que tout va bien avec toi, mon ami. So what happened with John Cena, the famous wrestler, who's also been getting into acting quite a bit these days, is that he initially made a statement saying that Taiwan is a country, which technically it is. I mean, it has foreign relations and is recognized by
Yeah.
a considerable deal of the world, especially the United States.
Maybe
It has
not the
its own
UN
function.
because they're cunts, but that doesn't count.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
happens when, again, China has a permanent seat in the Security Council and has just an
Yes.
overwhelming amount of economic and soft political influence around the world. So,
Yeah, they won the Second World War by getting gang raped by the fucking Japanese.
yeah. So,
basically.
so this just goes to show you how, powerful China is as a country in terms of its economic and sociocultural influence. Like, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of this in terms of pandering to China from a wide variety of companies. So, like, famously, Blizzard Entertainment, which is the
NBA.
company responsible. Let me just properly explain things. No, it's fine.
Go on.
So, like, Blizzard Entertainment, which is, of course, responsible for, like, the StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo franchises, famously or infamously had that moment where they were trying to break into the Chinese market, but then like the way that their apps were configured, like Steam has this issue as well, where Steam, like, only certain things are available on the Steam site for China versus the rest of the world, highlighting, this Great Wall of China, like the virtual Great Wall of China, which prevents the Chinese from actually accessing the internet. So you have like Blizzard had this moment years ago. Steam, of course, went through this. And the NBA famously has been caught sort of kowtowing. Hey, Agapimu, how are you? So, like, the NBA with LeBron James was particularly like aggressive on this front, where, again, many of these like sporting entertainment companies, like I can imagine John Cena is still very much associated with the WWE and other wrestling federations.
Yes, pretty much.
So it's like many of these like big companies who are again trying to break into the Chinese market, which is the biggest, and they've become far more affluent.
Break in.
So, like, exactly that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Don't forget to fiddle with the balls, John. They like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you, and also very infamously, and this caused a lot of controversy. We all know what happened with Walt Disney when they were filming the live-action Mulan film, where the very location where they were filming Mulan was close to where the Uyghur Muslims are being, like, where they're living, and where like many of the concentration camps are building, given the genocide that is occurring there. Mm-hmm. So it's like there comes a point where many of these companies and where many of governments around the world have to make this distinction. Do we either allow for what some people are coining late-stage capitalism, or do they actually allow like this sort of like capitalism where you have to aggressively expand no matter the cost? Or do they actually make a stand in terms of like supporting, the Uyghur Muslims who are being targeted, the
Wait,
completely
wait.
overbearing. Yeah,
Are you telling me that corporations don't care about freedom?
sadly no, but then again,
Oh shit!
I know, I know,
My
I know,
world is shattered.
I know. It,
Hmm.
it, well, again, folks like John Cena, like another example of this sort of like I wouldn't say whitewashing, but blackwashing that has occurred recently. I think some of us have seen some of the promotional material that was done for some of the Star Wars films for the sequel trilogy. So with
Yes.
like Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, Donald Gleason, and those folks. Well, if you see examples of those posters, of course, we all know who the character Finn, played by John Boyega, the
Yeah.
stormtrooper who actually rebelled against his programming, became a rebel.
Yeah.
So in normal like posters of like The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, Finn, of course, being a main character, is featured prominently, like in a like the character's face is featured prominently, like for example with Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I thought he was the
In
main character at first before watching the fucking movie. Then I
well,
realized that
yeah.
was Ray, and I was pissed because she has boobs. No, I'm kidding. I don't fucking care.
Well,
But
well,
honestly, that
well.
was really hilarious to check
No,
the
no, no.
reaction.
I get that. I get that. What when you see the same posters that were distributed in China, Finn's character, like Finn, is so reduced
Yeah.
in size in terms of it. So it's like again, that's like blackwashing in a way.
Basically, does nothing. Like he has a big chunk of the space on the fucking poster, and he doesn't do anything.
Yep.
Like he just lose like against the main bad guy, which his main job apparently is to lose against Ray. So
Yep.
basically, you never buy like fucking Kylo Ren as a fucking threat because he's just always losing.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, no,
but to come back
exactly.
on the fucking Chinese, yeah. You think that okay? So basically, there's people that says that they were interference from China to make sure that Boyega has a lesser of a role.
Well, just in terms of the promotional material, like I think there
Okay.
was a very famous example of
Oh Jesus
Joey.
Christ! You got blackwashed by your internet connection. Jesus
Well,
Christ!
Well, I think there was a famous example of this where there was a commercial that was done where there was a Chinese woman and a black man who were sort of like having like a very like sensual and somewhat sexual moment in I think either a kitchen or in a bathroom where there was a washing machine to wash clothes in, and the woman dumped the black guy into the washing machine,
Yeah.
poured the detergents and fabric softener and all that, and then out came this white looking Chinese guy, which is again another example of
Wait.
that.
Chinese
Yeah.
people are not white; they're yellow. Yellow. It's not exactly clean, so that fucking ad doesn't work at all.
I'm just saying
Not
like
white enough. Well, like Pantelis would say, not white enough. White.
my boy
He
Pantelis.
said the H in white. That's so badass.
I know.
All right.
I know. Well,
So yes, but basically China has been a fucking problem for West for the longest time. They have been trying to infiltrate,
Yep.
not infiltrate, but they have been like for those who doesn't know, influencing. Yeah, but they try to they with Huawei, which people think it's just like cell phone and fucking computers. They actually
Yeah.
do network device. And for the installation of the 5G towers in 5G's equipment,
Yeah.
people might not have noticed it, but they were a big race against Cisco
Ericsson, I believe.
and Huawei. Cisco
Yeah.
and Huawei. Yeah, Cisco is a big network device provider.
Mhm.
Yeah, basically, what happened is like Huawei is a Chinese company, obviously, and what they used to do in China, and we're not sure if they're still doing it, is they put like backdoors in their hardware so they can spy on your conversation and whatever the fuck's happening. So
Yeah.
think about it for a moment, all right? Huawei was trying to install our 5G towers or 5G's equipment, so basically they would have been like responsible for our internet, like Huawei,
Yeah.
a Chinese company.
Yep. That certainly is something that I do not feel comfortable at all, at all doing.
you don't?
Like, why? No.
Of course I don't. Fuck, man.
Like,
I feel like
people-
a pedophile
like-
in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's worse.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's ridiculous how much like China is not only influencing um, companies like the NBA, for
Yeah,
example, and video game corporations like Blizzard and like
yeah,
Steam, for example, and Walt Disney, for example,
yeah.
given what happened with the Mulan film. But we're also
Influencing.
seeing this sort of influence in terms, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We're also seeing this influence impacting our own governments, like at all levels, like municipal, provincial, and federal. And we're
Mm,
seeing a lot of this influence sort of manifest itself in terms of like the Chinese regime's ability to sort of gain cooperation agreements with our various educational institutions, so that
yes.
they can do
As an
potential
example,
cooperation. Yeah.
they have a group called the Confucius Institute, which basically,
Yes.
yeah, which basically finance university to give Mandarin classes. But they
Yeah.
will like to learn, teach, like they will try to inseminate in their courses like a more Beijing centrist vision of the world.
Yeah.
And they will try to influence the university from inside. So basically, they were that case in the I think it's UK British university. I don't
Yes.
remember which one it is,
Yeah.
but
I think it's that.
big,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They had a big map of the world, right?
Yeah.
And they had Taiwan painted in a different color than the rest of China. And those Chinese people that was from in the inside
From
the
China.
university, yeah, no Chinese.
They reported it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and basically they said, "Hey, what the fuck you're talking about? Taiwan is a part of China. You put it there, or we cut the fucking phone, right?"
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of that influence manifesting itself. Like
Yep.
there's talk of the possibility of either, I
Mm.
think, Canadian or American universities who had some sort of cooperation with Chinese universities or institutes that may have created the coronavirus. So of course, certainly there's more and more evidence.
Created the coronavirus? What do you mean by that?
Like I saw that there may have been some sort of cooperation. I need to sort of locate that source to corroborate. However, to sort of get back to the issue at hand, the next topic that I want to bring up is that in the province of Alberta here in Canada,
Yep.
we saw that Premier Jason Kenney and his education minister Dimitrios Nikolidis has
Think about it.
given.
A Greek guy that has difficulties to tell a Greek name. Welcome in the club, sir. You're
I
finally
say
white. you're
no.
you're
I even
white.
have difficulty saying like George Tsantzrizos, his last name from time to
Andrisas?
time. It could be a bit of a tongue twister,
Yeah,
but then again, I mean, no one's perfect, right?
I know.
So
Only
So
me.
what we're seeing in Alberta, and it is an article that I saw, or like you sent to me on from the Globe and Mail, indicating that Alberta is ordering all of their educational institutions to either severely restrict, if not outright suspend any and all cooperation agreements on an academic, scientific, or technical level with the Chinese regime, which I think is long overdue
Oh, for
because
sure.
we're hearing a lot of stories of like Chinese students who are either from China or those who have extended family in China but have legally immigrated here to Canada, who are born and grown up in Canada,
Yeah.
where, for example, if let's say they say things that are counter to the narrative that is being pushed by the Chinese regime, they get reported by their Chinese peers
Yep.
through many of these cooperation agreements,
Exactly.
or how a lot of these cooperation agreements end up again benefiting the Chinese regime over us here in Canada. And that, of course, with these cooperation agreements, like the Chinese government, like the Chinese regime is blowing through a lot of money
Yeah.
to sort of secure these agreements in place. So I think that this is a good first
Stealing
step.
IDs also. They use it also to steal IDs, to steal fucking how do you call that?
Intellectual IP and
Yeah,
intellectual
exactly.
IP. 'Cause a lot
Exactly. They
of
have been doing that
developments
for a while now.
a lot of developments in terms of our
Yes.
technology, in terms of medicine, and all that
Mm-hmm.
happen at the university level when you have like private-public partnerships, when you have professors leading
Yes.
their students to work on a wide variety of issues. So this is certainly something that needs to be to be countered. Like hopefully something similar can happen here in Quebec.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure that's happening.
yeah,
Like, yeah, there's like because the problem with the West is we started to be way too full of ourselves. Like we started to be way too full of ourselves. I remember back in the 2010s, I was reading articles that was mentioning that that's good to get all those Chinese students in our university because they will go back then to the regime and they will be like, oh,
Not
see how
happening.
capitalism is fucking great. Let's adopt it here. That doesn't work. That didn't pan out. They just took off, went back to China, even more like pro Chinese than they were before they left. So that's fucking crazy.
They honestly thought like no, again, the regime is just so well entrenched in the country that there's no way that such a system would hold up in terms of like thinking that when they come here they experience what they experience here in Canada and the US and elsewhere like the UK, France, wherever. They come back and they try to influence their, like, it's not going to happen. There
No,
needs to
it's not.
be
It's not like that. That it works. Like they have to figure out something with Chinese tradition that fit with democracy, or otherwise that's
yeah,
not gonna work. They
no,
cannot
exactly.
imitate us. They won't imitate us. They have to figure it for themselves and doing business with them and keeping their economy alive artificially. That's not helping. We
Yeah,
basically created a monster in the 90s and the 80s when we started doing business with them. Like
thank
that was
yeah,
that was fine to send over like those shoes shop and that kind of stuff. When we started to make them make our computers and appliance, that
yeah,
was the beginning of the end because now they could like figure out how cars are made, our fucking computers are made. They could
yeah,
install backdoor on fucking hardwares, and that brought the fucking can worm win right now.
yeah. To sort of get back to what was going on in Alberta, let's just see here. So okay, so for example, the minister in this article says, like, I hope you agree to such an outcome would be wholly unacceptable and morally deplorable if the research institutes within these universities with those cooperation agreements continue to do what they do. To this end, I ask that your institutions pause the pursuit of any new or renewed partnerships with PRC slash CCP linked entities, undertake a thorough review of your institution's relationships with entities potentially linked to the PRC slash CCP, excuse me, and
Chinese
ensure that,
Communist Party, yeah.
yeah, and ensure that these ongoing partnerships follow stringent risk assessments and due diligence. Like, this is just long overdue
Mm.
again, because again, the Chinese regime has gotten so overwhelmingly powerful. The only, like, from what I understand, the only three things that effectively, like, after watching a few documentaries on like CNBC and a few other sources have said, there are three things that are effectively stopping the Chinese in terms of this. The first, of course, is the fact that the United States still maintains its military power and supremacy around the world.
Yep.
Second, the fact that Amazon is still American owned and that it is based in the United States. So Amazon and its overwhelming economic
Mhm.
power around the world is still there. And surprise, surprise, that Greece is still very much in a position where they control a lot of the shipping
Yes.
around the world.
Yes,
So the
that's
fact that
rather interesting.
Greece,
They pretty much have the population of Quebec, if I remember well. Like they're it's not a really that populous country, and still
no,
they
it's
have
not
like
even up to like Greece's population, I think, has never reached more than 10 million individuals
yeah. There you go.
in
And
current
they have
history. So
they're pretty big on the shipment, as you said. Like they pretty much have pretty much everything that is shipped around the world. It's on a Greek ship.
yeah,
Yeah.
so those three factors, again, American military supremacy around the world still to this day,
Yes.
Amazon, and as
Yes.
well the Greek shipping magnates are like the three things that are effectively checking China to this day
Oh,
in
for sure.
terms of what's going on right now, given that like a lot of people are like a lot of people in the United States, a lot of like policymakers and talking heads are still thinking that Russia is the great threat. No, it's not.
No,
It's
it's
just
not. It's not.
it's
It's
the
just like
Chinese that
because they're
needs.
white. Like it's basically like we're still the same fucking people we were in the 19th century. We look at the world and we look at the Chinese, and since they're not white, we're not taking them seriously. We think the Russian is a biggest threat, but they're not really that
Not
much of a threat
anymore.
to Canadian or American. That's
Not anymore.
mainly the fucking the Chinese. Like the Russia is a big threat for it's a big threat for the
It's a
Europe.
regional
Yeah,
power in terms of their
exactly.
immediate influence in areas, of course, like Belarus, Ukraine, the Caucasus, where like
Yeah,
Armenia and
exactly,
Azerbaijan are,
exactly.
and in those areas, but they don't really pose that much of a threat. Like the only thing they have in terms of like being a potential global threat is the fact that
Yeah,
they still have their nuclear weapons, like their
but
nuclear weapon
yeah, but guess who
stockpiles
else has
from the Cold
nuclear
War.
power?
But
Well,
that's the
China.
only thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And China is trying to influence like Africa. Like they
Yeah.
use the influence to get some favorable votes at the UN councils. So there's
And not to
that too.
mention access to the resource to the still plentiful resources that are in the African continent to this day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what they
So they
tried to
try
do
and
when
they
they were
try to
trying.
fiddle around with democracies around the world. Like that has been a problem with Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah. Australia has a pretty, from what I've read, they have a pretty tough regulation about information circulation in Australia during the election because they're so close to China and China has been trying to fuck with them.
yeah,
All right, so let's get to our last topic of the night. I think we'll go a little
local to
closest
the
to home. Exactly,
to
because
Montreal.
like we've been meaning to talk way more about the municipal election, but there were
Yeah,
always something a bit bigger that came in. So let's talk about the municipal election. So as we have said, there's the Nicoder that has that is now in a race. There's
yeah,
an ex-footballers that is now in a race. So it's
yeah.
looking like it's going to be a race between Denis Coderre and Valérie Plante. I think you have the no, you have like some polls results from
Exactly.
Quebec
Yeah,
QC 125, right?
yeah. So just to explain, QC125 is a polling website established by a professor at Cégep Vieux Saint Laurent, which is right next to Cégep Vanier in Ville Saint
Yeah.
Laurent. The guy has established the polling website that tracks what's going on at the Quebec National Assembly. He's done the same thing um, for federal elections, for other provincial elections, and even did it for the 2020 election. So I definitely trust the way that he organizes everything. Like I'm on his site religiously because I'm a massive politics nerd in that sense.
Yeah.
So
But that's
on
kind
his
of that's
official
fucking important.
no, it is. You need to know
Yeah.
what's going on, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so, oh hey, Trax, happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so he on the QC125 Facebook page, which of course
Yes.
I follow, and I would recommend everyone go follow that page as well as 338 Canada for the federal stuff.
Yeah,
He
it's pretty
released
much
a
the
poll.
equivalent of like 368 to win in the United States, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he released a poll on his Facebook page that indicates like support amongst the francophones and the non-francophones, so like the anglophones and the allophones, as well as breaking down how certain big issues are viewed by in terms of both candidates. So
Yeah.
amongst the francophones that live in Montreal, Plante and Coderre are roughly equal in terms of support, where Plante has 44% of support versus Coderre, who has 42. That which is particularly interesting is that amongst the non-francophones, so the allophones, technically myself as a Greek, as well as
Yeah.
anglophones who live on the island, it is a complete opposite. Coderre has 51% support versus Plante, who has only 23% support amongst the allophones and anglophones on the island, which is very important if you're trying to run candidates in places such as Ahuntsic-Cartierville, my borough, which has a lot of like Greeks, Lebanese, Syrian, Armenian, and other folks.
But
Of course, Saint Leonard, where you have a lot of Italians, a lot of other folks like in Ville Saint Laurent, Pierrefonds, Roxborough, LaSalle, and other areas that have a lot of these like non-francophone area, like a lot of non-francophone people, like the anglophones and of course allophones again, like myself. So
was she ever popular amongst the Anglophone? Like, was it just a French thing, or were there a lot of Anglophone that was behind her?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
To be completely fair, there though, I know for a fact that again a lot of folks living in places like Bordeaux-Cartierville, like the westernmost part of Ahuntsic-Cartierville, Ville Saint Laurent, Pierrefonds, Roxborough, and those areas didn't really vote for Plante because again they didn't feel any sort of connection. They still felt a connection with at the time Equipe Denis Coderre and now Ensemble Montreal. So some of the polls that have come up, or some of the polls on specific issues,
Hmm.
sort of really highlight a lot of the differences of in terms of priority and in terms of like vision of Montreal.
Would it be
So
something if people were voting on issues though?
I know,
Yeah. So
trust me, I know.
just for the exercise, let's do it. But we all know it's fucking bullshit.
Well, the first poll that looks at the like assurer une relance économique de la ville, which is basically like the economic life of the city.
Yeah, pretty much.
Denis Coderre is leading on that issue by 50% versus Valérie Plante, who is only at 21%, and 29% either don't know or refuse to state their position on which main candidate is better on the economic life.
Mm-hmm.
Another factor or another big issue is, of course, améliorer le réseau routier, which is, of course, like the better maintenance of our local infrastructure, so local roads and sidewalks and other things. Coderre is seen more favorably on that issue by a whopping 49% versus 21% for Valérie Plante, and
Jesus Christ.
30% who refuse to indicate their position or who do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, on the flip side, développer le transport en commun. Of course, Plante is seen more favorably with 48% versus Coderre with only 28%.
For those who
And
didn't got that, that's
24%.
mainly the bus and metro, like public transportation.
Yep. Of course, another thing, améliorer la qualité de espace vert, of course, the many green spaces like the parks and all that. Obviously, Valérie Plante is polling favorably at 57% versus Denis Coderre's paltry 21%, and 22% have, again, either indicated that they don't know or refuse to state. And just one other factor, which I'm actually kind of surprised at,
Go
and
on,
I
man.
will state the reason why, is rendre plus accessible les arts et spectacles. Denis Coderre is only polling at 28% versus Valérie Plante, who is polling at 40% versus, again, the 32 who, again, either don't know or refuse to say.
But that's no surprise to me though, because
No, it's a surprise because I
oh
remember, and I can say this with experience, I can remember
yeah
how when Coderre was in office from 2013 to 2017,
yeah
events such as Comic-Con, for example, became far bigger, and we had many more big stars come to Montreal Comic-Con. You had the same thing with like Heavy MTL. You had the same
true,
thing with
true.
Oshigaga and Picnic Electronic.
Valérie Plante is a woman from the plateau, so basically she would like favor other type of cultural content, like
Yeah,
art theater, alternative stuff, that kind of
yeah,
crazy shit. So people that culture is really important to them. That's usually that kind of crowd. So the
yeah,
people that goes to theater, that watch like unwatchable stuff and pretend that they like to see an urinary in the middle of a fucking room and pay
yeah,
$600,000 for that, while
yeah,
just a fucking Mexican posing it. He's barely paid minimum wages. So
yeah,
it's retarded fake art, like that kind of people, right?
yeah,
I'm not surprised they're behind fucking Valérie Plante, because Valérie Plante is their fucking candidate.
yeah. So it's just interesting to see how people are viewing both candidates in terms of like the different issues. Though I'm not surprised on the issue, for example, of the economy and of
Yeah,
course the
yeah.
maintenance of the roads versus, of
Why
course,
will you
some of
trust
the
somebody
more.
from the plateau to explain you anything about the economy? Those fuckers doesn't live on the same planet as us.
No, exactly. Like the
Yeah,
fact
that's
that
fucking
on
crazy.
many streets in the Plateau Mont Royal area, they have two bike paths on each side, and you only have like one road and no parking. Like, how the hell
Yeah,
do you expect local deliveries to be done? How do you expect like local merchants to be able to properly
just
sell and to have the infrastructure to to
think
send their products out? Like, come on.
think about how much of a fucking dicks they are. Look where Plateau Montréal is situated, right in the middle of the fucking city. So if you want to go like to
From
more,
Ville-Marie to like a Huntsic
yeah,
Cartierville, like it's gonna
you have
be
to go through
difficult.
that fucking place, but you can't, because it fucking Luc Fernandez, the time he was there, he turned it into a fucking labyrinth for retards. So basically, there's no fucking way to move around Montreal anymore, because those assholes put themselves there. Like, if you want to live like fucking Amish, it's fine. I don't fucking care. But you don't need
Hmm.
to do that in Montreal. Montreal is a fucking city, all right? It's a
Hmm.
fucking city. If you want to live like a farmer, take off the fucking city. Décalissez de la ville. Crissez votre camp de
Hmm.
l'île. Get the fuck out. Leave us the fuck alone. You have no business in the fucking city.
Yeah.
if you want to be fucking farmers and do that kind of fucking crazy shit, all right? Like, leave Plateau Mont Royal to fucking assholes who like to pollute.
Hmm.
Fuck.
No, I get that completely. No, I absolutely get that completely. This is again what happens when you have politicians, and specifically politicians who are think in a strictly ideological lens. You need to like again, in order for any sort of government to be successful, they need to embrace a more pragmatic, a more practical view of things, and of course, to actually allow for evidence-based thinking to come back into the forefront.
But what was
When
the vote turnout last election?
I honestly don't remember,
I
but I
think that was
know
fucking low. Like something I've heard. I
I
think
could
I
check. I could
remember
check. I
twenty
could check.
five percent. I think I remember that,
2017.
but I'm not sure. I'm gonna check it out myself
No,
too.
no. I'm checking it out right now. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Hold
All right. I'll just talk shit
on.
during the time.
Yeah.
No, I
So
remember it was fucking low. Do you have it?
give me a second. So yeah. So the turnout was only 42.47%.
Yeah, of course. If you there's only that many people that vote, like you, all the fucking assholes are good. Like that kind of fucking dipshit, they vote. All right, they
Hmm.
fucking vote. They're stupid, but they vote. And the all the dumb decision that come our way, it's because these fucking assholes are mobilized and they vote. So guys,
Yep.
if you don't want that shit to happen, if you think the last 4 years sucked, fucking go vote, man. Go vote.
Yep.
Go
You don't.
drag your ass to vote.
Yep. And it's not
I
that
won't
difficult. I
because
mean,
that's I don't fuck like honestly, yeah, I don't think it's gonna change anything, but whatever.
anyways, I think we've covered three very very big topics. Certainly, unless Joey has something super last minute to discuss, but I think it would be best if
Last minute.
we.
Yeah, sure. Basically, yeah, I just need to do some plugins. So, man, if
Yeah.
you're, where can we find you, man?
Okay, so people can find me on Captain YOLO 562 on Instagram, where every week now I am doing a live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my profile.
Yes.
This week, it will be again a more open-ended thing where if people just want to jump on and like just have a normal conversation, I will have that available for this Saturday. And next week again, I will do my review. Again, next Saturday, I will do my review of the next two episodes of the Bad Batch show, which of course is the continuation of the Clone Wars cartoon on Disney Plus. So people can find me there. And again, as well, if people are on the Dirty Four Discord or on the Discord for either Pantelis' podcast or of course Jofo, you can also find me there as well, playing a lot of Jackbox and other things. So yeah,
All right.
so those are my plugins, Joey.
All right, so for the 34 week, that starts Monday with the French podcast, Dirty Sanchez. After that, it's me, Claudio, just talking shit. After that, Wednesday, that's the crazy Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
You have the
Yep.
3 Months in a podcast every 2 weeks, and you have the Quick and Dirty, that fucking show you're watching right now, right?
Yep.
Also, on the Thursday, you have, I think, movie trivia, and there's quiz hour at some point. I think it's Tuesday, though. Is it? I don't remember. What the fuck? Friday, we have nothing. Saturday, we have Saturday afternoon podcast. And then the Sunday, we have the main event of the week, the main show, the Dirty Four, plain vanilla, just the four of us being crazy. Saturday, we have a guest. It is a special guest since we're just went through the 52nd anniversary episode of the Dirty Four. That means that our first year doing podcast together. So that's yeah, it's nothing really. We just like keep doing this fucking thing, and we didn't really
But
care.
still,
Yeah, thanks, man. So that's
You're
pretty much it for people. Whatever the fuck you're doing, keep following us. Share, subscribe, and whatever the fuck, so I don't get sick and tired of hearing the sound of my voice. You poor bastard. I know I empathize. I know how horrible it is for you. And for my co-host and me, my co-host with a middle-aged level type of networks, and me myself, we're saying you, thank you, fuck you, bye.